All right, let's get right into this. We are unpacking a truly fascinating story from our source material today. It paints this picture of a huge tectonic shift in the world of finance. A story of how one nation could, theoretically, just step out of line. Not with a big explosion, but with some seriously chilling precision.
It all kicks off with this number, 127 tons. That's how much gold, in this telling of the story, just vanished from the custody of the U.S. Federal Reserve.
And yeah, it happened just like that. No warning, no late-night phone calls, just a sudden, shocking new reality. The story frames this as a direct hit to the very idea of American financial might. Now, here's the crucial distinction. This wasn't a heist movie, okay? According to the narrative, this was a sovereign country methodically and legally reclaiming what was already theirs. This wasn't a challenge, it was an act of quiet, confident departure. And that's the big question, isn't it? How does the most advanced financial surveillance system on the planet get completely blindsided? Well, the answer, as our source lays it out, is a masterclass in strategic patience.
You see, this wasn't just a single event. The source frames this as the grand finale of a meticulously planned 3-year-long operation that was executed right out in the open. The plan, as it's described, was brutally simple. They weaponized patience. For 3 whole years, a slow, steady trickle of gold was moved out. All legally, all by the book. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts, designed to be so routine that it became totally invisible.
And here is the absolute genius of the method they supposedly used. They didn't break the system. They used its own rules against it. By following every single procedure and spreading the withdrawals across tons of different departments, no single person in the entire bureaucracy could ever connect the dots.
And this, quote, this really gets to the core of the whole story. The vulnerability wasn't in some software glitch or a security loophole. Nope. It was in the assumption, the core belief, that a partner nation would always act like a subordinate and would never, ever dare to make a move like this without asking for permission first.
Okay, so let's shift to the aftermath. Because according to this story, when the news finally did break, the reaction wasn't about how to fight back, it was about the sudden realization that the game was already over.
The timing of the announcement itself was a strategic weapon. The source says Mexico pushed the button right as the Wall Street opening bell rang, specifically to cause chaos for all those trading algorithms that are programmed for a predictable world. And at the exact same time, they announced brand new trade deals that completely bypassed the US dollar. It was a perfectly synchronized 1-2 punch. The source paints the official response as really telling. Instead of some decisive action, there were supposedly online threats that got posted and then quickly deleted. The story frames this not as a sign of strength, but as the reaction of a power that's realizing its commands are now, well, irrelevant. The public anger, from this perspective, just highlighted the private helplessness. This is such a powerful detail from the narrative. 17 seconds of dead silence in a Pentagon briefing room. And it wasn't because they didn't have the information. It was because all the information was confirming the same unbelievable truth. They had been totally and completely outmaneuvered. And this right here gets to the core weakness the system supposedly had. It's a system built to crush loud rebels who break the rules. But according to this story, it had absolutely no answer for a quiet partner who used the rules to just walk away. It was unprepared for a betrayal that was disguised as perfect obedience. So this event wasn't just about Mexico. The source argues it sent a shockwave across the entire globe, setting off a chilling domino effect for all the other nations who were watching from the sidelines.
And the argument here is that this is exactly what happened next. Mexico's move wasn't just about getting its gold back. It was a proof of concept. It showed the rest of the world that the door wasn't just unlocked, it was wide open.
The story goes that almost immediately, other nations started to make moves. Brazil reportedly began shifting its reserves. China started studying the whole thing as a verified blueprint for its own plans. For Russia, it was validation. The source depicts this as a quiet but coordinated global pivot away from relying on the US financial system.
And this brings us to the real impact. It wasn't about the gold, not really. It was about psychology. For decades, that unspoken threat of U.S. financial punishment was the glue holding the entire system together. Mexico's success, according to this narrative, shattered that fear. It broke the spell.
To really frame how significant this alleged event was, the source uses a powerful historical analogy, America's Suez moment. So what's a Suez moment? Well, the Suez Crisis in 1956 was the point where the world suddenly realized the British Empire couldn't enforce its will anymore. It wasn't beaten in a huge war, it was just ignored. Its power was bypassed, which made it ineffective.
And the parallel is stark, isn't it? Just like Britain lost control of a vital physical artery of its empire, this narrative suggests the US lost control of a symbolic financial one. It shows that a superpower doesn't fall when it's beaten, but when the world just finds a way to go around it.
Ultimately, the takeaway from this narrative is a really profound lesson on what modern power even is. You can have the biggest military and the biggest economy on Earth, but if other countries can simply choose not to play your game anymore, that strength starts to lose its meaning.
And so this whole narrative leaves us with this one final, really thought-provoking question. The source uses this fictional scenario to argue that financial dominance isn't some law of physics, it's a shared belief. It's a powerful look at what could happen on the day the world just collectively decides to stop believing. What happens then?